complete misrepresentation of my argument. Like, that is crazy bad faith, man. That is probably the most bad faith thing I've heard all year in the entire Overwatch community. Like, that is an insane conclusion to come to after watching this video. Like, that is crazy. So this is my response video to Samito's response video to my response video to Samito's initial video on counter swapping. A lot of back and forths there. It's actually quite funny if you look at each iteration of each thumbnail, because me and Samito use the same thumbnail guy. Shout out Seb at Thumbnail, a great thumbnail guy. You can see that the right thumbnail gets smaller and smaller and smaller and shrink to the right side each time. It's kind of funny. In short, there's really two main points that Samito has in this video. The first one is that the fix that I provide to 5v5, right, making or homogenizing the tank design pool, basically just makes tanks the same, and I strongly disagree with that. I think he oversimplifies that point. Again, I should have clarified that in the video, but we'll get onto that later. And the second thing, the second main point is why rework heroes that already work to the 6v6 format. And again, I'll answer that question when we get onto it later. I think this is also an important point to raise. It's the double standards that are still in the community. I made a video on this about 2 months ago called The Double Standard of the Overwatch 2 Community, and basically it shows here, right? So there's the video Samito's reacting to, my video. Spyro also reacted to this video, not live, but he watched the video, and he DM'd me on Discord saying, hey, it was a good video, right? He agrees with most of what I said in the video. And that really took me off guard here, because if Spyro made the points, or if I put in this video that Spyro agrees with me, I think Sam would be significantly less harsh in this video. And that's because Spyro is a tier 1 coach, or he was a tier 1 coach. He's got a bigger platform than I do, he's been on the Group podcast, he gets on well with Sam. There's a sort of reputation and aura around Spyro that whatever he says is kind of goes, right? And I feel like in this community, again, we have this issue where people don't judge what people say, they judge who says it, and that's really important. It happened with Metro 2 months ago, it's happening with me right now, and I thought I'd just raise that. The second thing I want to go over here is just clarifying Samito's point, so I'll play the clip here.
Yeah, my take is not that 5v5 won't work, it's just that it's not better.
Scripted breakdown. I think that's really interesting he says that, and we'll get a slight, he contradicts himself there late into the video. It's very interesting. 20 minutes into the video, he contradicts himself. In terms of the actual statement, I would agree with that, but again, we have to get on to, you know, why don't we just go back to 6v6 kind of argument, and which one is more fixable, and we'll get onto that later. The first real main point of concern comes from this end of the end of the OC clip here.
The best
and
solution.
I can't have to put, you can see that I wanted to talk about this in the script, but I was just, it was a 3,500 word script. I just didn't want to script or type anymore. But I put it here in the last minute as an edit, and I should have, this is my bad, I should have clarified it more in the video.
More similar to each other and reduce.
Worth mentioning, similar doesn't mean not unique. And notice what Samito says here.
The amount of extreme strengths, and
he's pointing towards the camera like, I gotcha. You're like, oh, I got it. No, you didn't. You didn't, bro. I'll play what he says.
Which means you are heavily limited in how you can design new heroes. What made Overwatch such an amazing game was how unique each character could be. And there were a million different ways to play the game, right? But as time has gone on, the game has gotten watered down more and more and more, becoming more and more one-dimensional, losing more of those special identities that made Overwatch stand out as an FPS game, right? This is what the 5v5 format creates. From a foundational level, you are significantly more limited in how you can design characters. You are forced to design a more one-dimensional, boring game.
That I have to strongly disagree. Now, Relf also raised this point about, he calls it homogenizing, it's the same kind of idea, right? But by doing this in 5v5, right, the solution that I propose, sort of covering the weaknesses of tanks while also not exacerbating their strengths, closing that gap a little bit more, they argue that I'm basically making heroes the same, or making them too similar to each other, right? I have to strongly disagree, and that's for this main sentence that I'm going to say is probably one of the most important sentences in the video. Heroes that can do the same thing in wildly different ways, to me, is still unique game design, right? And I'm going to give an example of that. I'll repeat that again. You can have heroes that do the same thing or the same job, but in wildly different ways to each other, right? I'm gonna give an example here with Dive. This is more so gonna be anti-Dive because I think it's just easier to explain. But essentially, these three heroes have seen play against Dive comps, right? Any kind of Dive comp, Winston Dive comps, Doom Dive comps, it doesn't really matter. But their job or their role is still the same, right? Again, anyone who's watched my spar framework will know, but essentially their job is to prevent the dive with poke damage, absorb it through sustain cooldowns, and then rotate or push up afterwards, right? That's the general staging of it. But the way those heroes do it are entirely different, and let's actually look at the primary fire here, right? Ryan's got a close range, cleave damage hammer, Queen's got a hit scan, shotgun, fixed spread that has equal damage over time, and Zarya's got a ramp up, thick beam, I'll call it the beam. Those are wildly different primary fires, right? Wildly different, but they all serve the same purpose, right? They all fit into that spar framework quite nicely. What Reinhardt is going to do against dive is, against Ana type dive like Winston Ana, he's going to shield off the Ana nades and he's going to pin the Winston afterwards. That's what he's going to do. What Queen is going to do is knife the Winston, making sure that he can't jump out. Again, completely different design mechanics, right? But still achieving the same thing, absorbing that dive pressure, making sure that Winston doesn't get out, or that Doomfist, whatever character. Zarya, on the other hand, I'll probably put an example on screen here from Egoist Cat, but she looks to actually zone out the backline entirely, right? She can use that 15 to 20 meter ranged beam to entirely zone out the backline, use bubbles to self-sustain, bubble her own teammates too if they get naded, etc. Those are entirely different game loops, but they serve the same purpose. This should help explain, or help sort of illustrate, why you can still have unique design in a format like this, right? Look at Reinhardt and Ramattra. They are very similar brawl tanks that are interchangeable in the game, yet they do it in completely different ways. One is cyclical, one is not. One has longer range punches, one has a big German hammer swinging across it. Like, it feels completely different. Like, let's not kill ourselves here. Look at Rainbow Six Siege. They have operators that do the same thing, like Carly and Thatcher, blowing up EMP'd walls, but they do it in different ways. Same thing with Wamai and Jaeger. They do it in different ways. They feel different to play. Like, I just don't get it, man. In 5v5, you can still design heroes that feel unique while doing the same thing, because it's about how you do it. That's the point. Rainbow Six Siege just taught us this. And honestly, it's kind of on me for not putting that example in the video. It's not that long or hard to explain. I was just tired and wanted to push the video out to ASAP, but that hopefully rebuts this point. And it's actually quite funny what Samito says here at the very end of the clip. I'll replay it again in case you missed it.
You are forced to design a more one-dimensional, boring game.
He says more one-dimensional, boring game. Samito, one of the most problematic heroes in 6v6 was Roadhog, especially for the average player. He was the most one-dimensional tank in the game, right? Because he just relied on his one-shot. That was it. So I don't really get his point here, right? And I think actually in 5v5, I don't really elaborate here on it that much. Again, my bad for this. But if you design a hero with multiple different playstyles, that's more dynamic. Because if you get counterpicked, or if a playstyle doesn't work into a certain tank, guess what? You can just switch to a different playstyle and then play that, and then that's viable, right? The game becomes a lot more about how you play, with the quality of your execution of that playstyle. You know, how good is that playstyle on that map? Knowing when to switch between playstyles, right? The game becomes way more dynamic if you design heroes with multiple different playstyles, right? And again, as I've explained, with that Reinhardt, Zarya, Junker Queen example, right? We can toss in Ramattra there too. Any other variant of ground tank there as well. They can do the same thing in dramatically different ways. Like, let's not kill ourselves here. The other main point I want to go over here is the Zarya example. So here I kind of explain my suggestion for reworking Zarya, which isn't even a big rework. All I suggest is to give Zarya a move speed buff after a bubble pops. That is it. Or her last bubble pop, sorry. Her last bubble pops. That is it. That is it. No new mobility, no new fucking anything, right? Just a little bit of movement speed off of the bubble pops. That's it. And a damage nerf. That's it. And look how ballistic he goes.
These heroes are fine. They've been fine for 8 years. Right? I'm not trying to flame him here. But do you see how ridiculous this conversation is getting? At what point are we going to say, yeah, it's the format? At what point? This is my entire point. Why are we trying to rework fan favorite heroes that worked for 7 years to fit this format that was for a game that needed a marketing ploy?
So, the first off of that, I don't really agree with. The second off, I do actually, and he's got a valid point to raise. The first off, you know, Zarya's fine, guys. I think he's referring to Zarya in Overwatch 1, which, again, she was fine then. still was, right? But the main sort of thing I'm going for here is that Zarya was one of the biggest victims in 5v5, and I read some of the comments, just absolute mind rots that I'm reading. Zarya was is still one of the biggest victims of rock, paper, scissors. Right? We all know that Zarya, Orisa, Reinhardt / Ramatra rock, paper, scissors. We all know that. Zarya was one of the biggest victims of this because she just got no dynamism into her gameplay. She was broken on playoffs patch 2023 and the playoffs, and only Dallas ran her, right? She was never played in pro play, and then why? Because Ryan comped chat on her. So I don't really see his point, or the comments' point on that, right? The second bit, on terms of like, Zarya was fine in 6v6, why does she need to be reworked, why are we changing format for no reason? I kind of can see that. Again, there's sort of two main answers I have to that question, right? We can keep the upsides of 5v5, like queue times, while also still having plenty of room for varied hero design, as I've talked about and explained with the Zarya, Reinhardt, Jungle Queen dive example, right? We can essentially have our cake and eat it too. That's sort of the main point. The second point is more so from a place of realism and pragmatism. It's sort of asking, well, okay, we're in this situation now. What are we supposed to do about it? I think if you can read Bogus' tweet about how 6v6, 5v5, like, we're locked into 5v5 now, basically. This video, I should have probably clarified this too. It's more so an answer of, if we're going to keep to 5v5, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to fix counter-swapping, right? At the end of the day, practicality is what leads to action. And I think Samito does say that it's not too late to flip the switch. I do agree. I think it's not too late, and I think, yes, he is right when he does say that you can make Ramatra, other tank heroes, go to the 6v6 format and nerf their numbers slightly, and nerf the duration of certain abilities, etc., and they can still work. I still believe that's true, and he's still undoubtedly got a valid point there. My main thing is, have the devs talked about going to 5v5 or going back from 5v5 in a developer update, in a blog, on a tweet, in an interview? No, not once I think anyone has ever mentioned that. And I don't think they've got any vision to do that at all. Again, Season 9 patch sort of shows that they're going for this 5v5 format still. And it actually did work quite well, to be fair to them. But yeah, like, my main standpoint is, I think we are going to keep 5v5. I don't think it's that hard to fix. I don't think giving Zarya a move speed buff dramatically makes her the same as every other tank hero in the game. That's ridiculous to me. Yeah, I think it's sort of the umbrella. He makes a reasonable point, and then shoves on a completely dogshit unreasonable one underneath it and makes it seem reasonable. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I think Samito also explains in this clip that apparently I'm designing like a Sigma Brig Overwatch 1 type character, Baptiste type character. That is not the case at all. She now has to make a risk-reward play. She can use the movement speed to leave and live another day.
And now, like in Overwatch 1, what made tanking so beautiful, right? If Zarya just gets that speed boost for free...
No, she doesn't. You do realize, Samito, the bubble has to pop. It has to go away. The enemy team have to shoot it. There is dynamics there. There's interaction there, my guy. I don't know what you're saying. Maybe you misunderstands what I said, but...
Right? For literal free.
No, she doesn't. You can stop shooting the... You can actually shoot the bubble, but then stop shooting it. It has to pop. And it has to be our last one too, right? It can't be the one prior as well. The reason why I say it has to be the last one is because it adds more risk, right? If Zarya's popping her last bubble, she's got no more bubbles, right? That's it for her. She needs to be a lot more careful and a lot more decisive about what she's going to do. That's the whole point of why it's the last bubble. So I think here Samito also says, oh, but this doesn't fix Zarya into supports. He says it here.
It wouldn't change.
Not just with tanks.
That also would not change the comps where she's bad into. Poke. Like...
And I explained that before in the video with the Roadhog example that I used. I explained that that's mainly a support issue, right? And I'm keeping the scope of this video just within tanks. So here I give the example of a Gold Tracer player. If a Gold Tracer player plays Tracer incorrectly, is that a problem with the player, or is that a problem with the hero design of Tracer itself? And I argue that and I generalize that to the D.Va-Zarya matchup, for example. If you're playing D.Va into Zarya, and you are getting beamed by Zarya because you're not playing a correct playstyle of D.Va, is that on you, the player, or is that on D.Va in terms of the actual hero? Samito argues that the example, or that the case is on D.Va.
Yes, it's an issue with D.Va. Because in 5v5, if you are the only tank, your options to play the game properly are extremely one-dimensional in the gameplay loop. The argument
that is actually completely false. Again, I think D.Va is still pretty versatile in the gameplay loop. She's got very few comps that she's really, really bad into. The only ones being, again, Sim Mei. That's the only one I can really think of. I mean, she's got that whole dive, poke, bunker. God, Jewel. How many more, bro? Brawl, place. She can do everything in the game, right? Peel as well, by the way. Right, she can do everything in the game. Ask any tier 2 coach, they will tell you this. But I think the general point that Samito raises later, that I actually end up agreeing with, is the one-on-one tech matchup matters a lot less in 6v6, right? If we take that Zarya versus D.Va example in 6v6, that tank matchup matters nowhere near as much. Why? Because there's another tank to worry about, right? If you're playing Ryan Zarya, so you're right into like Winston D.Va, this matchup between the Zarya and the D.Va becomes a lot less significant, right? And I can't deny that. That is definitely true. However, again, this refers back into the hero design argument. We should be designing heroes where, when they play in that tank matchup, they don't feel that it's a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing, right? I'm not trying to gaslight gold players who play, let's say, Reinhardt into Orisa and think that's a fun experience. Not at all, right? But I am arguing that that can be fixed through hero design. With Zarya, in this case, the Zarya versus D.Va, that could be altering Zarya's own damage, exchanging that for mobility, as I explained prior. For Orisa and Reinhardt, that could be letting Reinhardt fire strike through spear spin. Again, these aren't mind-bogglingly hard changes to make. These are just soft suggestions here. In the Orisa versus Zarya matchup, that could be spear spin denying some form of Zarya's damage. All that kind of thing, right? And Zarya will be doing less DPS, not to mention as well. So there are ways to mitigate this through hero design. That's the point. And you don't lose the uniqueness. That's the thing as well. I explained that with the whole dive example with Ryan, Queen, and Zarya. I've already explained that. So yeah, I do ultimately think that hero design isn't that hard. You know, the suggestions I put forth aren't that hard. And considering, you know, we're probably going to be keeping 5v5 realistically. The devs haven't talked about, you know, 5v5 in terms of leaving it at all, in terms of the format, in terms of leaving 5v5. There's not been an interview, blog post, whatever. I've just talked about this. I think realistically, if we're going to keep 5v5, this is what we need to do. And it can still work. It can still be really unique. That's the good thing. 5v5 can still be really fun. So another point here I wanted to raise is the Reinhardt case study, or the case example here. He says that Reinhardt lost a playstyle in Overwatch 2 because now the dive-out thing is the only thing. No, that's just false, Samito. That's bad faith. You know that Reinhardt has been played in Brawl in Overwatch 2 5v5. It's been done at Pro Play. It's been done at Top 500. This game that I'm coaching in the background, the Ilios game, that was a Top 500 Ryan May mirror. Like, Reinhardt can still be played in Brawl. Like, I just don't get it, you know? And he's getting an entirely new playstyle. Which is the dive out thing, right? Like, I don't get it. The reason why Reinhardt's not in a great spot right now is because of balance, right? He was actually perfectly fine before the Season 9 patch. I think the DPS passive kind of screwed him over, I will say. But yeah, I don't get this point that he faces here, that Reinhardt is completely lost. I don't get it. And notice Samito's language here too, by the way.
5v5 tank experience has not been solved, and it will never be solved.
It will never be solved. You heard that, right? Look what he said at the start of the video.
Yeah, my take is not that 5v5 won't work, it's just that it's not better.
How do those two things not contradict each other? Like, huh? I think I might be the only person that picked up on that. So overall, there's not many other points to address it. I'll play his conclusion, and you can see the sort of absurdity that he comes to.
You're right. He's right, though. He is right. I'll give him this. You're right, man. Counter swapping wouldn't matter if you just design every hero to be the same.
Complete misrepresentation of my argument. Like, that is crazy bad faith, man. That is probably the most bad faith thing I've heard all year in the entire Overwatch community. Like, that is an insane conclusion to come to after watching this video. Like, that is crazy. That actually has left me speechless. Like, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, how do you think that by giving Zarya slightly more mobility specific to bubble popping, actually, even some of the Malga reworks that people have given, how can you look at this and look at these examples and say to yourself that these heroes play the same after these reworks? How? Like, it just doesn't, it's just extremely bad faith. And it's at the end of the video too, it's not even like he's clickbaiting at the beginning. It's an actual conclusion that he's coming to. And again, I think if Spilo was making this video, he wouldn't be this bad faith. And that's somewhere I'm just gonna put that out there. But yeah, that's unfortunately what he has to come to. It's sad because I think we do fundamentally agree that the game can work in both 5v5 and in 6v6. We both want this game to flourish like it was in 6v6 at its peak. We both want that. And it's unfortunate that he has to take this sort of approach here. That I think, you know, I don't even think I'm misunderstanding him. He just says that outright there. the whole point of this video is to take a more realistic approach to say, okay, we have 5v5 now, it's not going to change in the future because the devs have not signaled that at all in the public in any kind of way. We have 5v5 now, what are we going to do with it? And my conclusion is, we can do something pretty darn great with it, with fixing the hero design. And unfortunately, its conclusion is that the hero design is going to be the samey. It's going to be samey, and I completely disagree. That's all for now. Hope you enjoyed. This is going to be it's 36 minutes of recording, by the way. This is going to be trimmed down to like 18 minutes or something. But yeah,